Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. We're speaking with Stephen Price from Move to Change. Stephen, last week when we concluded, we started to address Move to Change, and that was basically in the context of the fact that you've got this drive to social justice and movements with youth. So Move to Change arises. Tell us about Move to Change.
Well, Move to Change is essentially born out of the 20-week movement, which was a movement supporting a bill that was introduced into Parliament by Dr. Rachel Carling-Jenkins. Okay, and that was to that bill was to essentially ban late-term abortions after 24 weeks, except in the event of medical emergency. It was also designed to put in appropriate support measures for women as a part of that bill as well.
Yeah.
So that's where Move to Change has essentially come from. What we are, I guess we're a movement of out there to create legislative change through cultural change. And how do we go about doing that? Well, we're there to support pro-life politicians like Dr. Rachel Carling-Jenkins and like Bernie Finn. So that's one aspect. We do a range of initiatives like what we did when that bill was up. We petitioning. We collected around 50,000 signatures across the state, which was one of the largest petitions ever gathered in the state. So a range of initiatives from that perspective, and then we also look to put on events in terms of creating awareness, attract people to get involved, and one thing is to be made aware of the issue of abortion in this state, but two, what they can do to make a difference, and that's effectively become politically engaged. And that's essentially probably our core activity moving forward is going to be running workshops on educating people on those two issues. And once they become aware of what's going on, I would like to think that people are going to want to become more politically engaged and go out and join a political party. And it doesn't matter which party, we're a bipartisan movement, and when we believe that it would be good to have whatever party people are affiliated with. We want more pro-life, essentially conservative pro-life people to be out there and putting their hand up to join a party, and then potentially with the view to pre-selection.
Yep.
And then obviously we know what happens from there.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, a great movement. Why are you in it?
As I alluded to last week, my wife had brought me along to March for the Babies, essentially 2 years running, and it wasn't really my cup of tea. But my wife challenged me to approach the organisers. She said, "Stop being negative. Why don't you see if you can, help them?" So I did. I contacted Bernie Finn, who's a great man, and he said to me to happy for you to get involved, and I guess it all sort of snowballed from there. I think probably the real turning point, though, for me was I attended a talk that was given by Abby Johnson,
Yeah.
who had worked. She was an ex-Planned Parenthood worker from the United States, and hearing her testimony probably made the issue, I guess, real for me in a sense. I'm probably guilty of being, whether the word is indifferent or I guess just uninformed about the issue, and that's probably why I was never, I guess, involved to some extent over the years, and why I've only got involved, in recent years. And I think that's, once you become informed in this issue, though, you really have no choice.
Yep.
And I think that's where. I know we've talked a little bit about religion and spirituality, but for me, that you can quite easily remove religion and spirituality from this issue.
Yep.
Because when you become informed, it's actually not about that. Well, it may be a little bit about spirituality, but really you can pretty easily cast religion aside, because it's just clear as day fact that is there are babies that are being aborted, being killed, and it's just, when you see that, when you realise that for the first time, it's I guess pretty intense, and like when I guess converted, you want to say, well, I need to be involved, and for me, I had no choice.
No.
And I guess that's where I look at now. For me, social justice starts with this issue. Social justice starts in the womb, and now I'm fortunate enough to be leading a team of people that wants to go about creating change. When we know it'll be over a long term, this isn't something that's going to change overnight.
No.
But we're going about, putting in a strategic framework to be, getting some wins along the way, with the view to, get legislative change. And as I said before, the way we're going to get legislative change is through cultural change.
Yeah, through people becoming involved because they care.
Absolutely.
Yes. So it's information, carrying to them information, like as you said, you learned from the March of the Babies. Time's up. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. We're speaking with Stephen Price from Move to Change. Stephen, you mentioned earlier about the petition. That petition got how many signatures?
Well, it was somewhere in the vicinity between 40 and 50,000, so let's say 45,000 signatures for the upper and lower house. And look, it was great to see such a large response from the general public that was in favour of what we were doing.
Yes.
I think it was a real eye opener for everyone that was signing their name to that, because the majority of people weren't aware that the current situation in Victoria, that effectively babies can be aborted up until birth. Yes. And I had family members that weren't aware of that.
And there's also the up to birth, and if they are aborted before that time, there's no requirement to resuscitate them or maintain their life. You just be allowed to die.
Yeah, if a baby that survives an abortion, yes, that's right. It effectively has no legal right. Yeah.
Yes, it's quite incredible. So the infant viability bill, that was why the petition was out there. What happened with that?
Politics, effectively, and arguably you could say that politicians not not acting on what the public sentiment was.
Yes.
We ran a Galaxy poll,
Yes.
where 64% of the people surveyed did agreed that babies should not be aborted after 24 weeks.
Right.
So when you're investing, I guess when you're investing time into those polls and petitions, and you're presenting that, you've got to try not to be disheartened by
Yes.
the outcomes. Was it a surprise or not? Look, there was one politician who I personally went to hand 5,000 signatures to for their electorate. They refused to table them. So when you come across situations like that, is the result a surprise? Not necessarily.
No.
However, you do look at it when you have those numbers of people, and you know that the community actually agrees with what you're doing, then you still are, I guess, somewhat shocked when the decision comes down at the end of the debate. I still to this day I'm probably pretty shocked about I guess a few of the politicians and where they sided on the issue.
Yeah, and probably not, or maybe not representing their constituents in doing that. by the
Absolutely.
sound of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's rather.
But look, in saying that, I mean, from my perspective, you can almost so it's not a shoulder and blame, but in a sense that, that's why Move to Change has is continuing. It has the 20-week movement evolved into Move to Change because there was momentum built, and I think that over time, all that will happen is we will just continue to get that groundswell of support, build that grassroots movement, because we know that the general public agrees with what we're putting out there. So it's just a matter of getting to more people, and that just takes time.
It does, and you're revealing a lot of passion in relation to it. Who else, without necessarily naming them, but what's the background of the people who are the drivers behind this, supporting you, like the committee itself? What's it look like?
Professionals.
Yeah. Right. And like, how big is the committee?
It's half a dozen.
Half a dozen
people. Yeah. And from various walks of life, which is good because it's because a diverse range of views, and people bring different views to the table, and I think that's what's going to contribute to our success moving forward.
And so, I'm just general member of the public, and they want to have some influence and some input into Move to Change. How would they do that?
They can go to our website, movetochange.org.au, and we have our contact details there. Happy to hear from the general public in terms of if they've got, whether it be suggestions, or if they would like to have us come and talk to a community group or be it a church group on our core activity. And we also have an events page there which talks about the events that we have coming up. So we had our relaunch recently, and we're also hosting a tour to the March for Life in Washington DC in January next year.
Okay,
which will be great as well.
They have a big turn up to those, don't they?
Over 500,000.
Yeah, that's big. So do you have a volunteer network? Like, do people volunteer to help you?
Yeah, we have a volunteer network, which obviously we need when we're running events. But we're looking for more volunteers. I mean, we would love to create a large volunteer database, especially because we know that in time, 12, 18 months for the next state election, but also, in years to come, when we're running these campaigns with petitions and so forth, you need human resources. You need people
absolutely.
power.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and one of the resources you need, in fact, is time, and we're out of it, so we'll be back. We'll be back in a moment.
Mani Allah. Alleluia. Mani Allah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity. We're speaking with Stephen Price. He's from Move to Change. Move to Change is established, how long has it been going for?
Oh, well, if you incorporated our previous life as the 20-week movement, it's been going since effectively the end of 2015.
2015,
Yeah.
so it's relatively young. And do you have a model that you use in setting this up and operating it?
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, we're in our infancy, but we're modelling ourselves on the Susan B. Anthony list,
Right.
which is a pro-life political movement in America. And they were instrumental in effectively the Republicans taking office,
Right.
and a big part of that. So that's our model. We're not another pro-life group out there. We're not there to be sort of competing against other pro-life groups in Victoria or Australia. We like to think we're a little bit different in that we are a pro-life political movement.
Yeah.
In the fact that we want to essentially educate people on the issues that are in Victoria and effectively Australia, and then we're out there to be supporting pro-life politicians, but also encouraging people to join political parties with the view to getting more pro-life people pre-selected and elected. And from what I've seen, there isn't that type of organisational structure out there in Australia, and it's something that's desperately needed.
Yes, particularly when you consider that unnamed politician who failed to take account of 5,000 signatures. If that's what's happening, there's clearly a funnel which is blocking the public opinion and public desire from being realised. So it needs someone to open that, and that's what you're aiming to do.
Absolutely. I mean, if 5% of parishioners at Catholic churches or Christian churches in Victoria joined political parties,
yes,
situations like this would change overnight.
That's right. So, yes,
it's from a numbers perspective, it's simple. Obviously, when politics comes into it, it's not necessarily that simple. However, I think slowly but surely, once you start educating people on the issue, and there's a lot of passionate people out there that. I think once they're informed on an issue like this, and also informed about actually how that they can get politically engaged and quite easily, I think in time we'll start to see some good results.
Yeah, ethics is clearly an important issue here too. So how are you covering the ethical side? If you've got somebody on the committee who's say from university, specialising in that area?
Oh, I guess I'm fortunate that my wife has done a grad dip in bioethics, so
right, okay.
I have my wife in my ear a little bit, I guess. But
well,
we have people on the committee that have studied in that area, and learned from some great people. JP2 Institute being one of the institutions, which is bioethics being one of their major courses there. So that's something that when we were forming a committee, that was one of the things we wanted. We wanted to have people there that have got solid backgrounds, that are going to be able to provide a range of expertise in what we're doing moving forward.
That's right, because the education part of your brief, it's really important to be able to encompass the full range of knowledge and awareness, but to communicate it in a way that is convincing. Now, because part of the problem, as we were discussing earlier, is that the old process of the pro-life movement, of photographs of embryo and all this sort of stuff like that, is a bit passé. So have you got a different approach to that?
Yeah, look, I mean, we feel that things can be done a bit more effectively. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think there's things that should be able to happen, like praying outside of abortion facilities. There should be no problem with that. You know,
Yeah,
the fact that
sure.
there's Buffalo's own legislation introduced against that is just absurd. You know. However, I can understand why it's come in though, because of the fact that, you know, there is a minority there that has signs that people find controversial.
Yeah.
And I think that I can look at it from a politician perspective. When politicians, you know, see that and they see people holding those signs up in front of them, then it's a case of, well, they're thinking in their mind, well, what's happening to the women? As I said, I don't look. There's a lot of good people in the pro-life movement that have been doing a lot of work for a lot longer than what I've been in this space for 5 minutes. What we want to do is just create a positive environment for people to get involved in this space, and I think in order to get the wider community involved, we need to create that positive space and that more inspiring space.
Correct.
And we had Moira Kelly speak at our recent dinner, and talking about all of the activities that she's done, which is she's truly an amazing person, and so inspiring, and while not directly related to pro-life, indirectly her work is pro-life.
Yes.
And I think doing more things like that and engaging a wider community, I think we're going to be able to change the perception of the movement for sure.
Yes. And it is about perception, and you're stripping away as much of the political detritus as you can, and so you're just going to put the facts in front of people and get them to understand the issue. That's laudable in its own right. So where would you think we've got about? No, we haven't got enough time really to ask you this question. So what I'm going to do is thank you so much, Stephen, because this is a really important issue, and Move to Change. Perhaps we can talk again once Move to Change is put in even more roots.
I hope so.
That'd be good. So thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
You've been watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu